Hello everybody, it's been a while since I did a video for my channel. I've done a piano type video for the channel. According to what I've been told that I have to do, I need to finalize my book. So I'm writing like a really good book now that I've tapped into so much information that I need to just actually write a book about how my life ties together with other different lifetimes and how everything just connects to this moment in time. But that's for another time. I wanted to share a video because I felt inspired by Ina, who has her own channel on YouTube, and she's a writer and she's a friend of mine. And we both are students of Alora Cian, and I have a story that I want to share because it's a cautionary tale as well about the dangers of, being ignorant and exploring spirituality. Alora just posted a video tonight, well, on this night, about waking up. It's like, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to wake up? Sometimes I don't speak. Well, anyway, I've been waking up spiritually to my past lives. And I've noticed something that people will only really notice if they reach a high level of awakening. And I realized that your lifetimes, your past lifetimes, are not considered separate from yourself in this life. It's considered as one continuous story. You just don't remember the most of it. So I look back at the readings that I've gotten from Alora about, the story of my birth, the angels that contributed to my energy, Uriel, the archangel contributing, you know, energy from a star, the light from the star, to me to give me a charming personality. And I thought about, the implications of my existence and the purpose of why I'm designed the way that I am. And it's because of the times that we're in. So this cautionary tale is very much in line with what happens when you try to break free from the negativity of this world and to bring in more light into your life. My mom, she was becoming very interested in spirituality a long time ago. At this point, it was a little before 2013. Yeah, so it was about the time that Alora mentioned where people just suddenly just got interested in spirituality and started looking at crystal shots, started taking interest in, learning how to develop gifts and abilities and finding out whether or not they're star seeds. And at the time, something happened to me because my mom was working at the casino, and I've worked at the casino for a little bit. It's one of the casinos owned by the Seneca Nation. And I've been to their newer casino, the Buffalo Creek, and I was employed there with SGA. The energy there is not good. Spiritually speaking, it's just not in a good place. So when my mom was spiritually seeking and she was working at a casino, there were things there that she brought home, and one of them, according to what I was just told by my spirit guides, according to them, one of them was basically the thing that Allura had to help me break free from. And so this is a cautionary tale, just in remembering that we have friends and family, and they don't know the best course of action when it comes to spirits, when it's spiritual stuff. There are people that do a lot of research and they know diddly squat. A lot of what I know is already up here. So I had a reading from Alora that kind of just included, it's like, you know more than you let allow yourself to remember. And I thought about that. It wasn't the exact quote, but I thought about that, and I thought to myself that there was a reason why I felt so conflicted or tempestuous underneath the surface, because I felt like there were parts of myself that were coming to awareness that were that were always there ever since I was born, but haven't really been given a voice or an identification. There was no clarity on that. So when my mom brought home this entity, it presented itself in such a way that it made me think, I should draw this out. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I ever made, because Alora, you know, I don't know how many years later, maybe like 3 years later, in a Facebook group that I was a part of, she would say, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "You drew this image," and she explained the image. She explained what happens when I draw something like that. That's why I don't like being an artist. I just quit being an artist, cuz I don't I don't always have control over what I get in touch with. And I think it's just because of my like my ethereal constitution. Is the thing that with me is I perceive by feeling, so it leaves me vulnerable because I can't see, I can't hear, not unless I start feeling. And that clairsentient quality that I have, it leaves me vulnerable. I'm an empath to begin with, but then you add the feeling of what it's like to have an eye ripped out or whatever, or the taste of blood, and it leaves me vulnerable because I don't get to see what influencers are there, and I have to get really good at knowing, you know, not how to not attract them to me, because if I get too close to a certain vibration, it pulls them right to me every time. So, being that I didn't have any, actual discipline or teachings to go off of, my mom brought this thing home with her unknowingly. It just knew that she was spiritually sensitive herself. And then on top of that, I was also spiritually sensitive, even my sister. And the amount of discord that this creature brought into my life basically just began tearing the family apart. And it was bad enough that I had another spiritual being that was a relative of mine, was kind of just sowing discord already. For her to have brought something that was very demonesque in energy only made it worse. And at the time, I was living in a small village or a town. It's I think they call it a village. And basically, I was living in a place where we were renting an apartment. We had to leave our house that we were living there for a very long time, but it was falling apart. So we got to renting this apartment. But the thing is, the amount of chaos that we had there came from people upstairs, came from people going in and out, came from the beings that would follow us around. So before going to our apartment, I don't know how long before that, because it seemed like it was within the year of the spiritual attachment, that we started having more problems in the house, where it was like the it was just being flooded with bad energy. And my friend Alora wrote a post about it on her Alora's Angels website, and she called it the entity of stirring rage. If you can find that on her website, you could read about it, and that's going to explain pretty clearly what kind of difficulties I was having there, because I can explain it. It began with a drawing. That was the portal. It opened the door. That was the consensual, contractual, mistake that I made. So I ended up getting myself bound to it. But I didn't have any respect for myself. I didn't have any love. I didn't have any care for myself. I didn't have worth. So I had a couple different beings kind of just using me for their own agendas. One which really wanted to terrorize my mom because he got off on that. That was his thing, and he knew that she was scared of him. And another that was trying to manipulate me in such a way that I felt like I was being pulled in multiple directions. I got one being pulling me this way, and I got another being pulling me that way. And I felt like I was kind of splitting apart, where I didn't really know what was real and what wasn't real, what was me and what wasn't me, because I've been so broken apart from my own upbringing, from the abuse that I went through, that I didn't really have any sense of who I am, that I kind of just molded into anything or any person around me. I just broke apart and became someone else every time. And I had to wonder, like, why was this life so miserable? Like, is that the purpose of my existence? Like, just to be treated like garbage and to feel miserable and utterly broken apart? And I know that somebody made a comment to me, and they were like, you didn't go through anything bad. Like, of course I didn't go through physical stuff, like, the physical hardship of like having a leg decapitated or whatever. But it's like, for them to tell me that I didn't go through anything bad was invalidating, because everything that I went through was so emotionally taxing and psychologically torturous. Everything that I went through left me feeling like I didn't have enough help in my life to get me on the right track. And it was a struggle. I felt like I needed more help than what I was getting. And it left me feeling bitter. It left me feeling like, I don't matter enough to people for them to realize, like, hey, this person needs help. And it doesn't necessarily equate to being like, hey, this person needs to be medicated, because spiritual experiences are real, and you don't always throw medication at it. It's like, I've taken medications, and they've only worked to a certain point before it went into like an adverse direction with me, because I'm very sensitive. I am very sensitive to substances. If I get into too much of a something, it hurts me. And so this negativity was definitely eroding away at who I am and who I thought I was, because on top of that, the amount of discord that was being sown at home, I was being accused of being things that were very hurtful. It seemed like no matter where I went, people turned on me. Like, I always had all these enemies, and it didn't matter how out of the way I was. It didn't matter how quiet I was. It didn't matter, how small I tried to make myself be, or how good I tried to be, as a person. There was always somebody that could be manipulated spiritually to attack me, or to single me out, or to bully me, or to put me through experiences that were beyond my control and beyond my comprehension as to how I should go about it. Because nobody gave me the right answer. People gave me the runaround. People would send me, one direction, then I'll get sent in another direction, and then nothing gets done. Like, I've lost jobs, I've lost, all sorts of different things in my life. And so, like, year 2018, That was shortly after finally getting a spiritual exorcism or spirit removal from Laura. In 2018, I was in such a state of being that I had no idea where I was meant to go, who I was meant to become, and who I really was. It was almost like I knew nothing about myself. And just because of the spiritual influence, just because I tended to take on the traits of others and then kind of just made that a part of myself. But what I noticed about it is that they target people, you know, who have trauma. And this being knows that basically everybody has some level of trauma. And what this being looked for were the people that were going to be the easiest to move into anger. And according to the blog and according to what I felt, which syncs up, this creature, this force, is the same kind of force that moves people into committing horrific acts of violence. Like, I had to spend a little too long with this creature attached to me and filling me with very violent thoughts. And it knew the amount of pain that I went through. It knew that people weren't there for me. It knew that people that could help me, I couldn't reach. It knew that I wanted more help. Probably could have used more help, but I somehow couldn't get more help because something would always happen. Somebody else would need more help. Somebody else would need something else. Somebody would have an appointment that kind of happened randomly, or an accident, or like all these things just would keep happening that kept blocking me from, what I wanted. And to reflect back on what Ina said, she said that she realized that it was a test. For me, in that position, I felt like this was not a test because it felt cruel. It was absolute cruelty because one, I didn't have a connection to God. Two, I was being bullied. Three, I felt like I wasn't getting enough help. The only thing I was able to do was to just persevere and just avoid doing anything that was going to hurt me, because I had a lot of thoughts of hurting myself in different ways, either crashing my car, either drowning myself, either, inflicting pain on myself, here, 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 just, it just kept going. Like, there were all these different things, and it just kept going. I never ever felt like I could talk about anything. And that's why I'm so emotional. It's like, this is the first time I'm talking about all these experiences that I went through, because it felt like I could never talk to anybody about it. That people were turned off from it, people were sensitive and didn't want to hear about it, that people wouldn't understand it, they would think I need to be medicated, that somebody was unavailable and wasn't really around to help me. I felt excluded, I felt outcasted. I felt like the entire world just put me into a dark pit and just left me there. Like, I didn't matter enough. Like, I was that insignificant that I was just going to be left in a pit. And I think about who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing in this world. And using the logical side of me, it makes sense as to why I felt like, you know, I didn't matter. And it's because everything is spiritual. Why would you not want to wake up? And I know some of the answers myself. There are many people that would be too afraid to face the truth. There are many people that would rather live a fantasy than to realize that, the bubble of delusion was fake. I've had experiences where I needed to go on this road trip, and it was like the veil was removed. And it was two layers. I remember distinctly it felt like a screen was dropped. Like suddenly I had a greater perception. Suddenly I felt different. It was bewildering because it was almost like somebody pulled something off of me. It was like coverings. It was like two coverings. And I don't know what they were because it was strange. It's like a covering that kind of obscured my perception of everything around me, and but then another covering that acted more of the same and also obscuring the perception of myself within myself. It was almost like somebody trapped me in this weird bubble, and it could have been me that did it. Because, like, the way everything works is nothing happens unless you somehow unwittingly give permission for it to happen. Everything's energy. That's why spirituality is dangerous at times, because everything is energy. If you're not good here, there's a lot to take advantage of. There's a lot of triggers. If you have a lot of trauma, those are triggers that can be used against you. And that's just the truth. And it just gets emotional. But at least at least at least they let me know that it's okay. I appreciate it. I really do. I don't always know who comes in and talks to me. I try to go based off of the color that I feel, and I'll describe how this feels. I'll describe how I perceive things to an extent. The first thing I get is a vibration because that's how I get information. So it leaves me vulnerable. I get information by something, you know, having me feel something, and then I have to feel what it is. And I have to learn how it is that they communicate with me so that I can communicate safely with them and not with somebody that's trying to jump in between. And it's just a fatherly vibration. The color I get is red, and another color I get is blue. They both feel different. The one that's red is a bit more, you know, strong, you know, in that masculine energy, and the one that's blue is softer. It's like a softer, fatherly energy. And it's nice. And the thing is like through adversity, people could be made stronger. Like through hardship, somebody could become like a great spiritual warrior. You don't do that by living an easy life. I started writing my book because I thought, it's important that I write an actual book based on my experiences here on earth, because people have been through hell. And when that entity came over me, I had a taste of the inferno. And there are people that experience that. and they don't really have anybody to talk to. They don't have anybody that they can relate to because it's very alienating. Because you start feeling like nobody wants you around because you somehow have demonic energy and nobody likes it. You know, only creepy people like that kind of energy. And I felt bad for a long time because I just felt utterly unworthy. And I had to realize that people get bullied all the time because these creatures need energy to feed off of. But I thought to myself, I would write a book. It's not going to be like, a Bible. Author, I did write a book, like 3 books that are in here. And I still think that's baffling that I was somebody that had the intellectual capacity to basically write esoteric information because the way I had to write esoteric information was very, like in a controlled manner because of the person that I was in the past was a soldier. And these spiritual beings that attacked me knew that I had trauma from my time of being a soldier. They knew that I had multiple lifetimes of, trauma about violence and death. So, like, these beings knew, basically my origin story about having been a soldier and having to fight all these wars. I had also noticed that they recognized another person that I was in the past, the more recent past, and with a birth in 1770 and a death in 1727 or 1827, death in 1827. So I was alive during this period of time where I also had another life, and I was around during this precarious situation that is currently playing out. And it's a turning over of things. It's the fires of revolution are blazing, and that's why they're pushing me to write the book, because I've gotten the information that I needed to actually put it all together. Like, this is a book that I have to write expediently because now I have all the key pieces. Because I had to wake up to realizing I was tormented, but not in every life. Only in certain lives where I was a person of influence. And I was tormented because of the positivity that I could bring. And I realized that it's a testament to my strength that I'm still here. I'm officially a good person. I was sitting on the fence in the past, and I thought about no longer being good because of the influences that were assaulting me over and over, tormenting me. There was such a big probability that I was just going to give up because I was emotionally devastated. They brought up every single pain that I experienced here. And it's like, so when somebody told me you didn't go through anything bad, it's like, no, I not in this life, but I've been through some very bad stuff. And it was hurtful for you to say that to me because it lingers with me. Like, I'm one of those people that kind of carries things around, and it's according to my origins, and eventually I just let it go because I get what I learned from it and I transcend. I almost thought there was something that happened right there. I thought that was interesting. Like, I have my glasses off. Usually when I have my glasses off, I see like waves of like energy happening at the like It's like when I got low resolution vision, that's when it's easier for me to perceive spiritual things because it's not so in focus. Every time I put my glasses on, it's like too in focus. But it's because I found that I had a hard time. Somebody else is here. I guess it's okay. I think I just have too many people surrounding me now. So I had a hard time because of a purpose that I'm meant to serve. This life has kept me very sheltered, but because I what didn't have any at-risk behavior, they tried to get to me psychologically, emotionally, you know, they try to mess with, perception. Perception is so much of what they manipulate. And people in this world don't realize they're just being manipulated. So that's my story. I had an encounter with an entity of the inferno, and it's on my friend's blog. It's on her website, laurasangels.com. It's there. And when I think about where I've been and how far I've grown, now they're being corny. If only you could see the entourage that I have around me at this moment. They are being rather corny. Um, I like to joke that I have many dads and a grandpa. I have one official grandpa. I have one official grandpa and many fathers. Oh boy. And an uncle. This is a one official uncle, one official grandpa, and many fathers. And then it's just I'm surrounded by love, and it just makes me feel happy that it's like you go through crap, but if you persevere and you turn things around for the better, you gain redemption through, you know, learning, making changes, being more positive, you know, evolving, transforming completely as a person. You come to discover that you were never hated. You were never truly abandoned. Aw, now I have another one. Because he knows I'm talking about him specifically. So Heavenly Father never abandons anybody. Just absolutely never. Never in the world. Never in his life. Never in a breath. Like, for as long as he exists, for as long as he has the power to do what is right, he will never abandon anybody. But he cannot stop people from abandoning him. And I feel that my testament here should be as inspiration for other people to look at themselves. It's like, don't copy what other people are doing. Figure yourself out, but please do it with the help of an actual qualified teacher. That's why Allura Cian is literally the only one I recommend for real serious spiritual work. You still have to be able to interact with people and gain, more of a broader perspective on things because we all exist here together. But take things seriously. It's a matter of saving your soul. There was a point of time. It chokes me out every time I. There was a point in time where I couldn't. There was more than one point of time. There was a few, but not a lot. There was a few just because of the nature of what I went through. There was a point in time where I've considered to really just not exist at all, and to really just be gone, to be done. So it's nice to have all the support around me because it can be lonely when you don't have any family or friends. And I don't care if I look like a crazy person, because they're actually here energetically, and now my butt hurts because now it feels like I have so much of them standing around me just being like supportive. It's like they want people to realize they don't have to resign themselves to the worst possible fate imaginable, fantasized, you know. God doesn't abandon anybody, and that's the truth. But people here will abandon others and themselves because there's no love. And we need that in this world. We need love. And I want to conclude this video before it gets stupidly long, because it's 35 minutes and almost 36. I want it to be a reasonable length and not have it being like... But I'm going to write a book. I'm going to try to be expedient on it. Leave a comment if you know a good copyright lawyer, because I'm going to need one. Like, this book is heavy duty, and I need somebody that's going to be able to help me protect its information. And then I'm going to need an editor. So I know I have somebody that's volunteered to edit, but because of the sensitivity, the nature of this book, I'm going to need somebody that's going to be able to edit paper copies. So as long as I get a copyright lawyer and somebody that's willing to be an editor of paper copies and not screw me over, I do have an idea of who it would be, as long as they, you know, willingly step forward. This book that I want to write, I have a title for it, but I'm not revealing it yet, because people, ever since my history of being here, have stolen things from me. You know, the composer Ludwig van Beethoven? That was me. And I've been through some crap. I've been through enough crap to know that people wrote lies, that they stole my work, and then they just really wanted me to, you know, die in a hole. and and then I had a greedy family. I'm like, that family was like, why? Because I had such a big heart, and people just didn't understand me. Because I'm weird. I'm still weird. Only being weird in this day and age is somehow cool. Like, it wasn't cool back then. And it wasn't cool in Vienna when I was alive there. And being weird was somewhat, ew. It was cringe. Well, apparently my cringe is acceptable in this day and age, because a lot of people are just weird. So come be weird with me and my friends, and let's do something positive. Let's do something good, and let's change this world for the better. For the love of God, don't repeat the mistakes that they have repeated so many times before. I'm writing a book about that. See you later. Bye.